Home initiative of the provincial government is failing a huge number of kids in our community. Struggles with focus, processing information, and learning in a didactic way are some of the issues facing kids with learning disabilities and ADHD. Learn more about what you can do at home with my guest today. This is Beyond the Classroom, and I'm your host, Cathy Thompson. My first guest is Diane O'Reilly. Diane is an ADHD life coach, and she has ADHD herself, and is the owner of Indigo Tree Coaching, where for more than a decade she's been coaching ADHD adults, parents, and teens. She has a holistic and compassionate approach, believing that people with ADHD aren't broken in need of fixing, but are in need of deeper understanding. She uses approaches that allow people to transform into the fullest expression of who they are. She lives just outside of Toronto with her family, where she coaches from her home office via Zoom or in person. Welcome to the show, Diane.
Hey, Cathy. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
You're welcome. So I've got some questions for you today, specifically around ADHD. Can you tell us some of the common symptoms of ADHD in children and teens and even adults?
Okay. Well, the diagnostic terms would be hyperactivity, inattention, and impulsivity. But that doesn't really cover all of it, because there's variations on all of those. But those are the main three, and that would be the same for adults as it would be for children, and they come in different degrees.
Okay, so if my child had some of these, what behaviors or things might I see as a parent that would sort of red flag me for maybe getting some more testing done?
Okay, so there's three types of ADHD. There's inattentive type, combined type, and hyper impulsive type. So
Okay.
first, one, you might just see that they're very daydreamy. They seem to tune out a lot. They don't seem to be necessarily connected to what other people are saying. Live in their own world, almost like a bubble. With the combined type, and that's me, you would see maybe a bit of hyperactivity, but hyperactivity can all be cognitive too. So it could be just, a lot of racing thoughts. And also the dreamy, inattentive, distractible stuff. And with the hyper-impulsive, you might see too much talking, racing around, not able to sit still, not able to stop themselves from doing stuff, seeming to be out of tune with other kids, maybe poking kids when they're not, joking with them in ways that's not really funny, so it shows up in a lot of different ways.
Okay, yeah, those are some, definitely as you're talking, I can picture, just these behaviors that you're describing. So that's pretty clear. So what is the prevalence rate for ADHD in Canada?
Okay. Well, globally, it's about 5%. In Canada, they sort of vary between about 5 and 9%.
Okay.
But that is changing because we think we're only getting to about half the people who actually have it, because now there's more, information about it. There's more media about it. There's more knowledge, brain scans, and so on about it. So.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. And do you find that there are a lot of kids, and maybe you know this or don't know this, but I find just with the tutoring organization and talking with parents will suspect ADHD because their children are having difficulty focusing in the classroom. And do you find, I've found over the years there's an increase in this of people talking about it. Is there actually an increase, or is that link for kids having problems focusing? Oh, they must have ADHD, or can you comment on that?
I think there is, just generally, they're saying that in regular people, focus is an issue, right? Because things are happening fast, there's more gaming, so there is an impact with that. ADHD is, a neurobiological condition. It's a serious sort of medical disorder that if you have this kind of lack of focus, it doesn't matter how hard you try to apply yourself and say, this time I'm going to be better, this time I'm going to do it, you can still get distracted. So it's kind of chronic, right? It's every day, no matter what. You can't.
Okay.
And that can change too, right? That could be like people will come to me and they'll say, oh, but my kid, he's so like not focused at school, but when he's at home, when he's gaming, he can focus for hours, so he can't have ADHD. I'm like, no, actually, the lack of focus is not a problem in people with ADHD. It's an inability to judge what I should be focusing on and when. So that might mean that, you know, I'm really interested in gaming, so I can focus, right? And I love it. But when I'm in French class, I'm really bored. And I hate it, so I just start, tuning out. So yeah,
I
it's not.
think you hit the nail on the head right there when you said it's not the focus, it's
Yeah,
the inability to understand where to put the focus at the appropriate times, kind of thing.
yeah, exactly.
If I summarize it. Yeah. So I haven't heard it put that way, but that makes total sense.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And so right now with the learning at home and obviously kids are out of school, it must be really difficult for kids with the diagnosis of ADHD to be able to work through the schoolwork coming home from multiple teachers and that regulation and organization. Can you tell us some tips or something parents can do in this case?
Yeah, I mean, it is really difficult because, one of the things that would keep them on track is a teacher that would say, well, here's just this much. Go do that and then come back and do this. And what they're getting now is like just all of it. And they're not able to necessarily have the executive function to, separate that and make it work in little chunks, right? They just
Mm,
don't have that. Um, yeah, it's tough. So more accountability is what we need. So
okay.
even if you're in a classroom setting or even a home setting, if your child is in their room all day and you're not passing by their desk or you're not checking on them in any way, then that just gives them too much freedom.
Mm,
They actually, although they hate routine, they need it. They don't have it internally, so they need it externally.
hmm.
So providing that, and that's tough because they're working too, right?
Absolutely. It is hard. And I remember us talking years ago, and I know you've done a webinar for us in the past at Beyond the Classroom, and talking about the importance of scheduling. And I think you were saying, come home, undo the backpack, go through a binder check, I believe you said, and different really concrete things that you can do with your kids to,
Yeah,
even now it would be sort of like a Google Classroom check, or just checking in on the kids or having some sort of a schedule.
yeah,
I think it sounds like you're saying that would be really helpful.
yeah. I mean, work with them. You have to be cognizant of their own sensibilities. If they're not a morning person, then don't make them sit down. Like I have one client who her mother says, you need to sit down for 2 hours. And that just shuts her down right away. She's
Mm.
tuned out from the beginning. That's like telling me to do a plank and not telling me when it's going to end. I'm already looking for the escape. I'm like, when's the teacher going to turn around so I can cheat? So um, work with your child. Say, can I, how long? I mean, we're sprinters, not marathon runners. So 20-minute bursts, 25-minute bursts, 45-minute bursts, a small break in between. Can you start at 1 and then have lunch and then do this? Can you tether it to something else you're doing in the day? So there are lots of different ways of um, holding somebody accountable, but also giving them enough autonomy that they are actually motivated to do it themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And would you suggest creating that schedule with your child,
Yeah,
or just having a top down, like, okay, this is the
yeah,
schedule I set for
yeah.
you. This is, yeah.
Really important. Like a lot of the work that I do with clients is trying to get them to understand their own needs and the conditions that would make them thrive. Like I have a little saying that when you meet the needs, the traits recede. And
Mm,
so what is the need beneath that trait? If you're always procrastinating, what is the need? Is it a need for clarity on that piece of work, or is it a need for
mm,
accountability, someone to check in? Do you need motivation, a reward at the end of it? Do you need it just to be really quick and
mm,
once and done and then you're out? I know for myself, I can't exercise for half an hour, but if I can do it in 14 minutes and do a sprint interval training, then I'm totally motivated. I can say yes 100% to that, right? So you want
Right.
kids to be able to say, yes, I can do that, and believe they can do that and want to do that. And you have to match that to what they're actually capable of doing.
Yeah, I like that in terms of looking at those small sprints. For me, I'm the same. I just like to check it off my list. I got to get it done and
Yeah.
check it off. And sort of like you said, that sprinting, like dragging it over days or times, is difficult for a lot of people. And I also like the idea of putting together that schedule with your child and knowing exactly what they need and what those barriers for them are and how to overcome them together.
Yeah.
And so, in our little bit of time left, can you tell me some resources that would be great for parents to access if they, think their child might have ADHD, or if they do, what are some great resources for them?
Well, CADAC is one. That's www.caddac.ca. And they're a great nonprofit organization. They would have everything on there from, what to look for in the diagnosis process, what to do in a teaching situation. They have
Mm,
free videos, free online workshops, all kinds of stuff. It's Canadian too, so that's one.
great. And anything else you wanted to add to that before
Yeah,
we wrap up?
you can visit my website. I've got a whole list of resources on there that covers just about everything from videos to books to all the things I've collected in the last 10 years. There's also understood.org, which is a great website. There is Attitude magazine. So that's Attitude as in ADD, Itude,
Mm.
mag.com. And that's got amazing articles on.
That's terrific. Well, I just really want to thank you for your time today, Diane. It's always nice to see you
Yeah,
and learn more about ADHD and how parents can really work with their kids to make this a successful learning experience for everybody. So thanks very much for joining me.
thank you.
My next guest today is Susan Grace. Susan has been teaching children for over 20 years in the classroom, is an Ontario certified teacher, and has special education certification. She's the proud owner of Beyond the Classroom Guelph, providing customized tutoring to students in JK to grade 12. Sue has spent much of her career working with children with learning exceptionalities and believes that every student has their own way of achieving success with school. Welcome to the show, Sue.
Thanks for having me, Cathy.
No problem. So I really want to talk about specifically kids with learning disabilities with you and how they are managing with learning at home. So I'm wondering if there are particular learning disabilities that you feel may struggle a little bit more with this whole learning at home versus being in the classroom.
Definitely, because in the classroom we can really cater, you know what to do when. And at home, things like dyslexia, when everything's being delivered online, if you have challenges with reading, someone's going to have to sort that out through you. What is your assignment? Math, again, another challenge. Writing for sure, because everything's got to be written down now. So these kids need strategies and tools to help them get through this type of learning, for sure, definitely. Parents are going to need the help.
Yeah, and so do you think that a lot of parents are feeling that pressure? The parents of kids with learning disabilities are feeling that pressure of having to decipher, I guess, the information coming home from school, turn it into something that the kids really can process and work on a little bit on their own. Do you find that?
Yes. What they have to do is, it's harder for everyone. Everyone has to put in a little bit more effort because it's harder for the kids. And it's also harder for the parents to help the kids to understand it, let alone decipher the assignment into something they can understand. Then they have to give the extra help as the students are going through the assignment to actually get to the end result.
Mm-hmm. And so a lot of kids have IEPs. And can you explain what an IEP is? Parents probably with kids with IEPs would understand it, but for everybody else, what would that look like, an IEP?
Okay, so an IEP is short form for individualized education plan. So if you're have specialized needs, this would outline how your needs are going to be addressed in the classroom or in school. For example, if you have difficulty with reading, someone can read it out. It may say someone can read it out to you. It may assign you a Chromebook. It may suggest a scribe. That means somebody's going to write for you. Use of a calculator for kids that have challenges in math. So it puts all those things into a document that carries on with the student, and then it's reviewed once a year.
Okay. And so now that there's not the classroom situation and the special education department on hand, do you know what families are doing in terms of if they have a child with an IEP, should they be reaching out to the school? Does the school reach out to them? Do you have a sense of how that might work right now?
Well, I think communication is the key. So just because the kids aren't there at school, the parents and the kids can still reach out to the teachers and the spec ed teachers and say, hey, can we have a Zoom meeting? This is what we're struggling with. Or, hey, can you give my student a little bit of a motivation here? Can we set something in place? Let's set up those motivators. But keeping in contact with the school, with the teacher, even with classmates, it really boosts the kids' morale, because they're all suffering from that right now, that lack of interaction. So anything you can do to just reconnect with the school, with the teachers, with their friends, it will all help.
Yeah, no, those are really good points. And I think in terms of, going back to that IEP and those supports that kids would normally have in the classroom, those with learning disabilities or other identifications, can parents take that document or have access to that document and look at it and think, okay, this is a work coming home. So now they're sort of the new teacher and mitigating these two documents, saying, okay, this is the work, this is the IEP, how can I help my kid?
They'll be pulling their hair out unless they implement some of those IEP recommendations. At the end of an IEP, there's always a solid page of recommendations, things like using a Chromebook. It could be something as simple as, instead of doing 20 math questions, do 10. Can we see if they have the concept with just 10 questions? Do we need to do 20 or 25? Scribe for them. Take a look at what the assignment is about, and then decide how you're going to facilitate that, given the recommendations in the IEP, because they're usually quite specific. Redirections, frequent breaks. Frequent breaks are key. Actually, kids with learning disabilities. All kids, but especially kids with learning disabilities, need to give their brains a break so they can come back in and refocus.
And so frequent breaks, what would that look like? Would it be every hour, every 15 minutes? I guess it would be dependent on the child, right?
Right. It depends on their age and their attention span and varying degrees of disability. I would say, grade 1, 2, you're looking at 30 minutes, 45 minutes tops, and then they need a break. And break should be fun. It should be movement. It should be fun. I don't know, have a fire drill, something like that. Get them outside for a minute. Go, go, go. They'll come back.
That's funny.
They're excited.
A lockdown at home, a fire drill.
Let's just add to the stress.
That's funny. Get everybody standing outside. At least it's nice out now, so we don't have to worry too much about that.
Yeah,
that's funny. Surprise. It was actually on a webinar the other day with McMaster University, and they were talking about productivity and things like that. And they did say about taking a regular break. For adults, it was actually around 1 hour every hour, and looking at them to maximize learning or information processing. They were saying that physical exercise, to your point, was the most effective sort of reinvigorating, blood to the brain type of thing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's great.
It helps.
Yeah.
Give it a recess.
Yeah, well, exactly. Or healthy nutrition break, something like that for sure. And so I was just going to ask, is it important for kids and parents to connect with the teachers? But you were saying, yes, absolutely. Keep the lines of communication open, ask the questions.
Yeah, I know I've been in touch with my kids' teachers, and just, every once in a while touch base. If you can set up a Zoom meeting, that will help hugely. To just say, the kids pick up on it. We're all on the same page. We all want this for you. Let's help them to organize themselves as well. Like if you can get your child to buy in on, this is what I need to accomplish today, or what do we want to accomplish today? Let's see, let's set some goals. Then they take ownership. And let's see, when we meet with Miss Henry, look, we can show her what you've done. And it all comes together as one complete package.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, circling back instead of just submitting documents, that kind of thing. And so, as an experienced teacher, you have 2 kids in grade 8 and 11, is that right?
Right.
And so, how are you finding learning at home in your household? I'm curious.
It's funny because both of them are missing school. Completely would rather be at school, interacting, even for the learning. They say they would rather be at school. But one works independently, needs a desk, needs time, quiet time. The other one needs to talk everything through with me. So I have to give them different spaces to work in. So it depends on the personality. Keeping their motivation up right now is the challenging part. It was fine at first, but now they're like, oh, I'd rather be at school. Why do we have to do this?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the fact that they already know their marks are what the marks are.
Yeah. A lot of parents don't tell their kids that.
No, teenagers figure it out though. They figured it out real fast.
For sure. And I think that all students at all ages are struggling with motivation right now, not only kids with learning disabilities, for sure. Yeah. And, that is the most common thing. It used to be in the olden days, pre-COVID, where it was children wouldn't have self-confidence with school. So beyond the classroom, working with tutors builds that self-confidence and that, with the schoolwork. And now what I'm hearing for the last 6 weeks or so is motivation to get it done, for the self-discipline, just the motivation not only in kids, but even in parents.
Right.
It's a long haul for everyone. Yeah. So I know parents are doing a great job. So are the teachers, trying to get kids motivated, get them engaged, get them connected. Yeah. And so what would be your go-to resources for parents? What would you suggest that they tap into to help use this learning at home for learning disabilities or kids without?
Okay. I would definitely say Khan Academy is one of your go-to places to get extra help for the day-to-day, what's in the lesson. If you're not sure what that type of grammar is, all that sort of thing. As far as kids with learning disabilities, Grammarly is awesome. Many people use it, not just kids, but it's an awesome program. For grammar, it corrects your grammar and your writing structure as you go along. And one thing I've been talked about is a website called Inspiration, which helps with what is executive functioning, so the ability to organize. So it's going to help you with mind mapping. Everybody can take advantage of that, whether you are learning disabled or not, especially now that we're facing the lack of motivation in everybody. This will help you lay out what you're going to do, and it breaks it down step by step so it's easier to accomplish. So that one was Inspiration. Those would be my 3 go-to. There's lots though. I know I provided you with a list.
Yeah.
There's math sites, there's writing sites.
There is so many sites. There's so many sites, right? Like it's overwhelming. Yeah. And of course, beyond the classroom, your tutoring company in Guelph.
Call us. I will give you a tutor. It might even be me.
That's awesome. Well, I just want to thank you for your time, Sue, today. I really appreciate it. All the information you've given us, and thanks so much.
Well, thank you. Have a great day.
You too. From speaking with both of my guests today, it's clear that parents at home can do a lot of smaller things to help kids with ADHD and learning disabilities. One of the great ways beyond the classroom tutoring support students is by connecting with them on a personal level to help them understand the material coming home from school in a way that matters to them. For more information about the resources from today's episode, visit beyondtheclassroom.ca. Thanks for watching.